Hey everyone, this week will actually be a bit of a different episode than what you're accustomed to. So instead of continuing working on Shiny apps, I've been asked by a few people in the softball community to make a video on how to pull softball data. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to download two CSV files, which will be on my GitHub page. I will leave the link in the description below, as I always do, and in the tweet when I tweet it out on LinkedIn as well. So go to that page when I tweet this video out to get the GitHub of the Excel files for the year IDs and the season IDs and the team IDs. Now, one thing I will say is the team IDs are based off college baseball data or the college baseball teams, so it may not be 100% perfect, but it gives us a good start. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to scrape college softball data. And what we're going to do here first is I'm literally just going to copy and paste from the script that I wrote on the softball scrape, and I'm just going to go through some of the lines real quick. If you're familiar with Bill Petty's Baseball R package, the NCAA scrape function, this is a lot similar to that, just repurposed for softball. So I'm going to copy and paste, and you can kind of see stuff is already appearing. So again, softball season ID lookup, updated master NCAA team lookup. I will have those CSV files in my GitHub page again in the link in the description below. I always tweet it as a second tweet after the video and in the comments on my LinkedIn post. So please be wary of that. Those are where you can find those files. Just download them on the computer, and then you can be able to upload them, or I should say put them in your directory so you can use them in RStudio. And then the libraries that you need to run this code, so RVest, XML2, and Tidyverse. And again, if you've watched my videos before, you should be able to get this in the library. So essentially, we're just calling a library, we're just calling the features of a package. If you don't have these packages, you just simply say install.packages and then in quotes whatever the package name is. So rvest tidyverse xml, and then just remove this comment and then just hit control enter to run that code. So that helps a lot in that sense. So now we have those three. We're just writing a function again. You don't have to write any code. Again, go on my GitHub. It will all be there. Just copy and paste that code, put it in your RStudio. You're good to go. So NCAA softball scrape function, the team ID, year, and type batting. So we have three different types: batting, pitching, and fielding. And then the year is any time between 2013 through 2020. The reason why is the stats.ncaa.org page only has full data from 2013 to the present. So anything previously from 2013 won't be able to be scraped. So again, this is a lot similar to Bill Petty's Baseball R NCAA scrape function. So if year is less than 2013, just provide a year that's greater than 2013 or equal to. And then this is just if the type is batting, this will pull from the softball season ID lookup and the batting ID. So that way it subsets to say, okay, hey, this person wants batting data. Let's pull from that season ID lookup and only get batting data. And then this is the URL. So this stats.ncaa.org. If, say, you find a softball team that isn't on the ID lookup, this is a good place to go. So stats.ncaa.org, you just type in the team name that you want, softball wise, that maybe may not be on the master NCAA team lookup, because again, that's repurposed for baseball. So anyways, just go in there, there's a search bar, type in that school, and then as soon as you hit enter, there will be a 3 to 5 digit code that will appear in that search bar. That's the team ID. And then you just put that into the function. So again, function team ID 703 year type batting. And it just basically pulls from that data, and then I have it repurposed to select specific columns, and then add columns, get rid of columns, join columns together. So like this one right here, it's just a left join, so it's combining that master NCAA team lookup with team ID and school ID and the year, so that way those are aligned. And then this last one is just replacing any NAs with 0, and then getting the plate appearances, and then removing anybody who has not made a plate appearance. That way it's easier to manipulate that data. And then again, same for pitching, but this time we will select pitching ID instead. And then again, adjusting the columns, so on and so forth. Merging those two tables together between the table that we're scraping and the master NCAA team lookup. And then you just keep going down the line, select these specific columns, mutate, so that way we have numeric variables. Some things are integer variables, and then remove any pitchers who didn't face a batter. So that way we have accurate data. And then lastly, this one, I'll go in a little more detail. This is fielding data. So again, it will subset the year ID and the type ID. So this time the type ID is fielding. So that way it subsets. So let's say you say fielding 2018. It will only take data from 2018 fielding data. And then you have your URL. Again, it's just pasting that team ID, year ID, and the type. So that way you have the school, the year, and the type. So this case fielding. And then you will read that URL, and then you manipulate it by selecting table, the third table. So how Arvest kind of works is you will, in this particular set of code, is you're saying, okay, I want to select the table, and I want to select the third table. That's more or less of a guess and check in this case. So I can't remember what the first two tables were, but when you just say Arvest HTML notes table, it will give you a list of tables, and then you select which table that you want. In this case, fielding, which is 3. And then Arvest, and then you fill the data so that way NAs can appear, etc. You don't have to have dashes. And then again, column names, change that. Make sure it's in a data frame. Add year and team ID, so that way you can join the two tables together from the table that you scrape, along with the master NCAA team lookup, so that way you have the merged data together, and then you select those columns, and then we're just substituting. If it has X, replace it with nothing in the player name. Then you select the specific players. And then this lastly is adds in the player URL as well as the player ID. That's something that Bill Petty added in his Baseball R package a while ago. So that way you have the URL for that player. So that way, if you want to say look at a specific player's URL, you can copy and paste that URL into your browser. You're good to go. And then that player ID, so that way it's easier for you to manipulate when running future code. So I'm just going to run this entire thing. So loading the two CSV files again on my GitHub, as well as the function. You don't have to write any code. This is just function. And then this is kind of like what the IDs look like. So when I say subset, it will take this ID for this season, this batting ID if you select batting, this pitching, and this fielding. And then the NCAA team lookup just basically selects all the teams, the conference, their school ID, year, division, and conference ID. And again, this is for baseball. This CSV file is mostly baseball. So if there are different conferences, teams, or teams that are not even in there, again, this is for baseball. But this gets a vast majority of softball teams in the mix. So, and again, I mentioned earlier how to get a softball team that is not on there. So, now we're going to give an example. So again, the team ID 703, that's the University of Texas. So I'll just simply hit run. So I just hit Control Enter with this code. And again, when you highlight all that code, just hit Control Enter. That function will be in your environment, so you can use it anytime you need to. Anytime you start up R, just make sure you have these libraries loaded in R as well, so that way you can run that code. So it'll give you some warning messages. Same with baseball R's NCAA scrape. So player name joining, character, vector, and factor. And now we can hit view, and it gives us year, school, conference, division, jersey number, player, school year, position, appearance, game started, ERA, etc. So it gives us all of this data, which is really fun, really cool. And then as well, it gives us the team's totals as well as their opponent. So really cool stuff. Texas softball did really well. A 1.78 ERA before the season got shut down, and they scored a lot of runs against their opponents since their opponents had a 7.55 ERA. So really cool stuff there. When you go in that updated master, you can select this filter button, and let's say you want to look at a specific school. So let's say William Jewell as a specific example. You can see their school ID. So their school ID is 30120. So let's repurpose that. So we'll say 30120, and this time we'll select batting. I'll keep this as TX. So essentially what we're writing in this code is TX equals NCAA softball scrape team ID 30120, year 2020 type batting. When you run that code, it goes into the TX data frame that you created. So I'll change this to WJ since it's short for William Jewell, and hit enter. And again, it'll give you a warning message. You don't have to worry about it. And then William Jewell, hitting data. So this gives you year, position, games played, games started, batting average, OBP, slugging, runs, at bats, hits, doubles, triples, home runs, RBIs, walks, intentional walks, etc. So it gives you all of this data that's useful again, and at the end, player ID and player URL, as well as plate appearances. And lastly, at the end, it gives you your team totals as well as your opponent totals. So really fun stuff, very useful. I think it's great. We'll do one more example. So again, I'll go into the Master NCAA team lookup, and we'll look up my fellow counterparts. So Quincy, their team ID is 561. So 561, and this time instead of batting, we've already done pitching, we've already done batting. Now I will select fielding. So I'll change this to QU and just say view QU. So capital V, view QU, it allows you to view that data. So hit enter. Now you can view it, and we have fielding data. So putouts, assists, errors, fielding percentage. Some of these I don't necessarily understand. So I know total chances, inherited double plays, triple plays, stolen bases allowed, caught stealing, pass balls, catcher interference, I would assume. Again, I don't know off the top of my head. There's a bit of different variables between baseball and softball. So, but it gets you all this data, and you can use it to, maybe make a dashboard of stats for your school, dashboard of stats for the entire conference, so on and so forth, so you can track progress and see it that way. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate this. Again, this is a kind of a special video for those who are interested in softball data. I've had a few people reach out to me, so I think that's great. And we'll get back on it with Shiny. I know I've been a little bit away for a little bit of while, but we're getting back to Shiny next week. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.